And good morning and welcome to VSA Capital 5 Minute Morning Miner. It's Thursday, the 8th of June. And I'm pleased to say that whilst the analysts are away, we're having these special podcasts. And we've got part two with Alison. Morning, Alison. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew. I'm well, and you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. The news flow out there actually is still remarkably quiet. So it's just as well I'm talking to you again, Alison. But, we had a really good chat yesterday about sort of the macro picture in mining, which wasn't too bullish, it has to be said. But let's talk a little bit about individual commodities and stocks, maybe. And of course, one of the things for your fund is you are actually a hedge fund. So you can go short and long. So even if the market's pretty horrible, you ought to be able to take advantage. And I do know that just as VSA and myself were very bearish of lithium stocks at the start of the year, you were too. And I think you were short them. But of course, it's turned round. Lithium price now is shooting up. So what's your sort of stance on lithium stocks at the moment, Alison?
I think the lithium market, really did move. The kind of price levels that we saw last year were clearly unsustainable at any sort of sensible time horizon. So, a correction was overdue. I think the jury's a little bit still out on whether we've now bottomed and we've turned, or we haven't. I think the demand, year-on-year demand growth for EVs is looking not that exciting. And then you've got quite a lot of new capacity, particularly in the spodumene coming on. That said, I think people had got very bearish. Some of the traders had got very bearish and had positioned quite negatively. And clearly there's a bit of restocking and kind of shaking out and rationalizing underway as well. So I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag in lithium.
Yeah, it's also, you've got a lot of different countries producing with different regimes, with different rules, and you've also got different commodities sources, if you see what I mean, from the brines to the hard rocks to the clays and that sort of thing. So it's quite a complex market in truth, isn't it? And you have to look at sort of individual companies to a large extent. I don't know, is there any particular company you really like at the moment?
We are shareholders in Galan Lithium, which is a small Australian listed development company. Very good grades. It's a brine, it's Argentinian brines. And yeah, it's one we like. We've held it for quite a while. So, that's something that, in amongst the kind of noise of what's the commodity price doing, what we always looking for is to say, are there companies out there that have truly world-class assets that, in due course will come to the market?
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, there's a little bit on lithium. What's your other sort of favorite commodity at the moment?
We've got quite a bit of platinum, and specifically that we've got platinum metal or ETFs rather than the producers, because our stance on it is twofold. From the demand side, I think you got the substitution from palladium into platinum, which is big, and really kind of firmly underway. And then on the supply side, we think the South African supply is going to fall short. We're just watching the electricity situation there unfolding. And to a large extent, the mines have been somewhat immune to that up until now. But there's some signs that that's, kind of getting to be on the pointy end.
Do you hold any gold or silver?
Yeah, a little bit of each. I think some of the gold producers are looking surprisingly cheap given how good the gold price is. Historically, what you've seen is a kind of an overshoot on the equities. So when the gold price is high, the equities price in a gold price that's even higher, and sort of, run ahead or kind of over exaggerate those peaks and troughs. But what you're seeing now is the opposite, which is the gold price is high, but then the equities of some of the juniors have got free cash flow yields, 20%, even 30% free cash flow yield, which is pretty unheard of. So they kind of look like, at spot value plays, which is quite rare in the gold space. So
let's say you very rarely see that. So what's your favorite stock? What's your favorite stock there? What have you got a big position in?
Oh, I'm not going to talk my gold stocks because they're kind of quite active in them. So I probably better rather not. But we got a range of things. We like some of the smaller producers where they've got existing assets and then kind of more coming online or more optionality in the bag.
I like a little bit of secrecy there. And silver, I mean, I have a view that silver is actually a better commodity to be in than gold. Would you agree with that? Is there anything you like in silver?
We've struggled a bit in silver to find things that we really like, to be honest. I quite like the commodity, but I've just been struggling a little bit on the stock selection to find things that really catch my eye.
You haven't been listening to me, Alison. Guanajuato silver. But anyway, everyone knows that I love it. Let's move on. I'm having, because obviously it's a 5-minute morning minus, we have to whiz through pretty quickly. I have quite strong views about vanadium because we do so much in long duration energy storage and vanadium flow batteries. Do you have a view on vanadium?
I do, which is that I'm trying to be excited, but it feels to me like that story just hasn't become real yet on the demand side. I think the technology is there, but translating that into firm flows of significant demand for vanadium just doesn't feel like it's there yet. That said, the vanadium price is not high. I mean, it's pretty low. So normally, that's where we do like to sort of, look at stuff is at the bottom and not at the top. So I think there's probably some opportunity there.
So is there anything you're very negative on at the moment? I won't ask you for your shorts because you're clearly not going to tell me. But is there an area where you're sort of we're short there actually, or are you maybe long at the moment pretty much because everything is so cheap?
Yeah, no, we're not. We're quite cautiously positioned overall at the moment, but that's less kind of aggressive shorts and more sort of dry powder, sort of standing a little bit by the side and waiting for some stuff to shake out and some really exciting opportunities to emerge. We're being quite cautious on stocks that need funding in the short term, which in the mining sector, everybody needs money all the time. So in a difficult market, that can be a really tricky place to be, no matter how good the assets. So we're just sort of standing a little bit by the side in terms of the junior development companies.
And have you, in these sort of the other critical metals areas, things like the tins and the cobalts, tungsten, which is a bit of a favorite of ours. We've got the Tungsten West general meeting today for their funding. Are there any of those that you particularly like?
We got quite a bit of graphite. So yeah, that's probably my favorite amongst the other transition.
Do you think that the market's really grabbed onto graphite? I mean, I've never myself really got that excited about it, but obviously we do hear a lot about it. I mean, it really is. Well, I suppose all of those are niche markets, but I mean, is there any particular way you'd suggest playing graphite?
Well, what's tricky is ideally I'd really like to own a company that produces a whole bunch of graphite, because that's kind of the safest way to play the commodity price, kind of trend, rather than very company specific stuff. But, that's a rare beast out there. So you sort of pushed into saying, okay, well, who's got the best development projects, which is, also lovely in a rising market, but obviously you take a whole bunch of other risks on. So I think there's some really good stocks out there. I think natural graphite relative to synthetic graphite is a good theme to play because it's much more environmentally friendly apart from anything else. So I think that kind of trend towards using more natural graphite will continue. And there's some nice opportunities out there, particularly East Africa. Some really good resources. They've been really slow actually getting funded and getting off the ground, but I think some of them will come to fruition.
Well, maybe just on that, my last question, you mentioned East Africa, and obviously we all know that Tanzania has had its ins and outs, should we say, with mining companies because of political reasons, currently looking a lot better. But are there any countries, I won't ask which countries you're happy with because there's an awful lot of countries there, but are there any countries you just go, I just can't go there? I mean, I'll exclude, by the way, Russia and that sort of thing, because obviously that's a completely different kettle of fish. But, is there anywhere like maybe, talking of graphite, Madagascar, where you just said the politics are too difficult, or South America, any countries you avoid?
Yeah, I mean, I would say at the moment, Mozambique, it's got some of the most fantastic graphite resources, but I don't think you can go there in northern Mozambique at the moment.
All right, but I mean, regardless of graphite, any commodity, any countries, they're on your no list.
Yeah, otherwise, really, probably just Russia. Otherwise, we tend to take a view that at a portfolio level, we're not a private equity fund. We don't only hold 3 projects, so we can afford to take quite a bit of political risk, and it's perhaps that freedom that we have, and then at a portfolio level, that's kind of manageable.
Well, that's pretty interesting, actually, because I think a lot of people do have those no areas, but that also can create value. But anyway, look, Alison, that's our sort of 10 minutes up. Really appreciate you coming on these last couple of days. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. Any further messages for Alison, do DM us. And also, actually, if you want to invest in her fund, unfortunately, it's US domiciled, isn't it? So you have to be sort of a US investor, but I would strongly recommend it. Do call up for details if you want to put money into it. But thanks, Alison. I much appreciate it.
All right. Good to chat to you. Cheers, Andrew.